This is the Ramana Maharshi 40 Verses on Reality Satsang, a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. Welcome. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching and practice. I bring this to this satsang. This week's reading from 40 Verses on Reality is verse 15. These are Ramana's words. Only with reference to the present can the past and future exist. They too, while current, are the present. To try to determine the nature of the past and the future while ignoring the present is like trying to count without the unit, without the number one. What time is it? Why? It is now. It is always now. What is remembered as the past was once now, and the memory is known now. What is imagined as the future might be now, someday. It is imagined now. The past and the future are only thoughts. Only now actually exists. Now is the only time that you exist. Now is the only time there has ever been. Every experience, physical and mental, is now. You are always here, too. Now and here are just another way of saying I. Now and here are when and where you exist, always. The past and future exist only in your mind. Now is the direct experience of being. When you feel your breath, the feeling is now. Staying with the breath or any experience puts you in the now. When you reflect on your experience, you are just in your thoughts, in your mind. Stay with the experience to stay in the present moment. Now, when you feel joy, it is now. Now is the only time you have ever felt joy. Now to our videos for the week. First is Rupert Spira, and he talks about eternity is ever present now.
So, I know awareness is outside of space and time, but I still can't imagine it just always having existed forever. I feel like it should have been created somehow, but I don't know. Was it created or has it just always been here?
When you ask the question, has awareness always been here? Your question could be reformulated. Has awareness always existed in time? So what you are presuming is that time has always been here. And the question is, has awareness been here all the time that time has been here? Yeah? So let's first investigate whether time has been here all the time. And that will enable us to know whether awareness has been here all the time. So, would you agree that the time consists of what we call the present, which is now, and then behind the now there is let's call it a vast space, which we call the past, going back indefinitely in one direction. And then there's a in front of now, there is this vast space which extends indefinitely in the other direction. Yeah. Okay, so you know what the experience of now feels like.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're experiencing it now.
Yes.
Okay. Now, try to leave the now and visit this place called the past. No, sorry, let's back up. Think of something that took place in the past, like breakfast this morning or anything you like. Okay. So with that idea or that image, you have the image of an event that took place in what we call the past. But that image or thought is taking place now. Yes? So the thought and the image about the past is not itself in the past. It takes place now. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So forget the thought about the past or the image about the past. We want to actually experience the past itself. Yeah? Okay, so now, just for a moment, step out of the present and visit the past. Go there. Don't just think about it or imagine it. Go there.
I can.
Can anybody here, just for a moment, step out of the present and go into the past? Now, what about the future? Can you just, for a moment, you can think about the future. We can all think about dinner tonight, but that thought takes place now. So the thought about the future is not the future itself. We want to we want to experience the future. Yeah, because we're trying to experience time. Yes, and time is a movement from the past to the future. So we want to experience the past and experience the future. You've already discovered you can't go to the past. You've never experienced it. In fact, you can't ever experience it. Nobody here has ever experienced the past. What about the future? Try to go there.
You can't really.
You can't really, or you just
can't
can't?
at all.
You can't at all, exactly. You just can't. Don't you think that if it was really there, someone would have gone there by now? Just for a moment. I mean, someone. One, not just the 100 of us that are here, but one of the 7 billion of us. Or going back in time, I don't know how many humans have existed. Don't you think someone for a moment would have actually left now and experienced this time called the past or the future? Nobody has ever been there. Nobody has ever come back from the past and said, I went there. Why not? Why do you think that might be?
Because the past, they were there when it was the present.
Because
they were there when the past was the present, but now they can't go back because they have to stay in the present? And the past doesn't exist anymore?
Well, you say the past doesn't exist anymore, but has the past ever existed? I mean, in order to know that something exists, we must experience it.
Yes.
In order to be sure that something exists and that we're not just imagining it. I mean, are you sure that fairies exist?
No.
No. Why not?
Because I've never seen one, and
You've never experienced one, nor have I, so it's safe to presume they don't exist until we experience one. Now, using exactly the same criteria, given that neither you nor I, nor anyone here, nor anybody ever has experienced this place or this time called the past, why do we believe so strongly that it exists? No one's ever been there.
it's just our memory of the present.
It's our memory, what we call memory, makes us think there is something called a past, but memory takes place in the present. The memory is an idea about the past, but when we look for the past, we never find it, just like when we look for the fairy, we never find it. Could it be that the past doesn't exist in the way we think of it?
Yes.
Could it be that the future doesn't exist when we think of it?
Yes.
How many nows have there been since we've been sitting here this afternoon?
Is that a trick question?
Alexander, you should know me by now. All my questions are trick questions.
One now.
One now. There's just been one now this afternoon. What about today? How many nows have there been today?
One now.
And what about in your lifetime? How many nows have there been in your lifetime?
One.
Could it be that this now is the only now there is? And it's not going anywhere? Could it be that it hasn't come from a place called the distant past? Could it be that it's not slowly traveling through this medium called time? And could it be that it's not destined to travel forwards
Yes.
endlessly? Could it be that this now, the only now that you and I have ever experienced, is the only now there is, and it's not going anywhere?
Yes.
Now, go back to your question. Has awareness existed forever?
No. Well, it exists in the now.
Exactly. It is in the now. It is present in the now. Awareness hasn't existed all the time, because there is no time for awareness to exist in. When you fall asleep at night, you have a dream, and you dream that you have been on a 3-week holiday to a Caribbean beach. Yeah? So in your dream, it's the last day of the holiday. In your dream, you look back over the past 3 weeks, and you can discuss with Mum and Dad about the things that you've been doing, the swimming and the fishes and the snorkeling and the meals. You can discuss everything that happened in the last 3 weeks, yes? And you can describe what happened this morning and yesterday and the day before. And then when you wake up, you look at your watch again. You fell asleep 2 minutes ago. So the 3 weeks that you had in your dream took place in a moment in your mind in the waking state. It didn't take up any time. The dream itself, in the dream, the holiday seemed to take 3 weeks. But in waking state time, it took a moment. Now, could it be that what we are having now is a kind of waking state dream, which seems to last for 12 years or 55 years or 80 years, but in fact takes place in eternity, in the now, in this moment, which is not even a moment. It's because a moment is a fragment of time, but it takes place now. Could it be that what seems to be a lifetime from our point of view takes place in what's called eternity? That is the eternal now, not the everlasting now, not the now that lasts forever. There is no ever for the now to last in. There is just this now that is not going anywhere.
Yes. That, yeah. I see how that's possible.
And then let's just go one step further. So we might then ask, well, okay, if there is no time, then now can't be a moment in time. Yes, because there's no time for the now to be a moment in. So what is this that we call now? The now is, we all know what we mean. When we say now, everybody knows exactly what we mean. But given that we've now discovered it's not a moment in time, what is it? What is now?
It's just now. It's like, it's not in time, but it doesn't, I can't give it a name, really.
Perfect. You can't give it a name, but given the words we've been using this week to try to give names to our experience, which you're quite right, can't really be named, but try to, in the context of our conversations this week, try to find another name for now.
Knowing?
Perfect. Knowing or awareness, yeah.
Okay.
Because now is that in which all our experience takes place. Doesn't all your experience take place in the now?
Yes.
That now is not a moment in time. It is pure knowing. It is awareness. It is dimensionless awareness, or in religious language it's called eternity. Remember, eternity doesn't mean everlasting in time. It means ever present now.
Okay.
And next we will listen to my teacher, Nome, and Nome talks about being alone.
Silent, non-objective knowledge of being is self-realization. It is that knowledge in which knowing and being are identical. It is said to be non-dual, for in this there is no other, no differentiation. If you know yourself in your true being, it is kevala, absolute, alone, with nothing other. If you know yourself in your real nature, you find that there is neither an individual I, nor anything to be called this, the objective portion of one's so-called experience. Rather, you find there is one absolute, invariable existence, without beginning and without end. The one who knows this the self, can only be the self, and cannot be anything else. We say Brahman alone knows Brahman. The Absolute alone knows itself. Nothing else can do so. For this knowledge is neither perceptual nor conceptual, but most interior, that in which there is no separation. And because there is nothing else that actually exists, to know or not know this one self. If this is realized, there is invariable being, which is utterly non-objective and formless, and immortal. If this is realized, there is infinite consciousness, and no longer the illusion of a differentiated mind. If this is realized, there is not only Sat-Chit being consciousness, but also Ananda, bliss, for one is abiding as the very source of happiness. That source experiences itself without any interference whatsoever, because there is no other, no duality. The silent, non-objective knowledge of oneself is what is to be aimed at. This is what is to be directly experienced. It is not a sensory perception. It is not a mental conception, but something far more interior and utterly non-dependent on that which is perceived or conceived. For this self-knowledge, you have only to deeply inquire as to who you really are. What has just been briefly described as being the Absolute, being, consciousness, bliss, is your own existence. The existence that everyone knows and is, that no one actually doubts, ever. No one doubts his own existence. This existence, just by itself, free of any imagination, imagined limitation, superimposed attributes and such. This existence, by itself, free of any misidentification, is that, Brahman, the Self. As the Maharshi has pointed out quite lucidly, there are not two selves in the one of you. So there is not a self to be realized and one that is unrealized. There is only one self, and it alone exists for all eternity. We should not confuse it with the body, the mind, or the false assumption of existing as an ego entity. Inquire deeply within yourself, who am I? Be free from regarding what is transitory, what is objective, what is sensed, what is conceived, as being yourself. To think such were yourself would not at all be true, but would be the cause of needless illusion bondage and consequent suffering. The innate peace, the innate freedom, the innate happiness of the self is realized clearly and distinctly by anyone who so much as actually inquires to know one's own nature. There cannot truly be any obstruction to the knowledge of your own self. What could get between you and you? Or who could hide yourself from you? However you apply yourself in spiritual practice, let your focus be the interior knowledge of your own self, the knowledge of being. That in which no false notion of I or anything else arises, is your true state, the only real state there is. It is yourself. And it is the significance of silence.
First, meditate, inquire, breathe in and breathe out. Long, slow breaths. Feel the breath come in and then go out. And notice that you exist. You exist and you know that you exist. And now investigate within yourself, within your experience. Just be here now. Dismiss any other idea. To do this, stay with experience and don't follow the mind. Now is more of a feeling than a thought. The doubt, can I do this, is just another idea. Ideas have only the power that you give them. Ask yourself, who am I? All right. Now we will do a short chant. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. This series on Ramana's 40 verses on reality will continue in the following weeks. If this satsang was of interest, I have more, a book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on screen next.